Due to the current state of the union, I've decided to start an Underconsumption core series. Feel free to stick around and learn how to make this tiny little journal out of nothing but one single sheet of notebook paper and an old magazine page. Hi friends, I'm Ashley. Welcome to Darling Cottage Diary. I make journaling content, mixed media art, sewing, tutorials, anything that has to do with crafting and pretty things that you can make at home, as well as just help you relax, maybe after work or trying to fall asleep. Sometimes I talk a lot, sometimes I do a no talking ASMR subtitle version. You can find both of those playlists on my channel. But getting started today, I really wanted to focus on something very, very basic and kind of grow this Underconsumption course series from here. I know it's kind of a big trending thing right now. I've definitely seen an uptick in comments on across all of my social medias saying, people are wanting to journal but don't know where to get started or feel like they can't afford to because they think they need like a bunch of washi tape and stickers and just all kinds of things, which are so much fun to have for your journaling and enhance your journaling. But I wanted to not only do some ways to make journals from trash, from very simple things, and frankly, selfishly, this is a series that is going to force me to use my collection of trash I have hoarding in a closet, from boxes and tags and all kinds of other things that I've kept, things I've bought because they're too pretty to throw away, like tea boxes and ink boxes, and or they're the perfect shape for a little journal, as well as thrifted clothes and bed sheets and all kinds of things that I can talk to you about how to use and give new life, as well as it basically being free to use in your crafting. So where we are right now, you're going to follow the folding, obviously, of whatever size paper that you have, and then fold it to where it has those 16 little rectangles. And then these lines I'm making are going to cut along them, and then we'll fold it up a special way to where you don't have to sew anything. You don't even have to staple it. It's folding and gluing. It is the most simple little journal you could ever make. If you have a really big book, or a really big piece of paper, which I honestly think I might do the same method next week. I have some packing paper that I got from buying a piece of glass at a thrift store, and also like Home Goods and stuff usually wraps your glass in that big kind of sheet paper, soft paper, and I think I could make a nice sized book out of one of those. So, but this is good for just the camera, the camera size I have right now. So once you have everything folded and lined, you'll want to fold it in the way, basically just following how the folds go. If you mimic me exactly, you're just going to follow the natural folds, except for the very last part that could act as your cover if you wanted it to. I'm going to add an extra cover because I am extra and aesthetic trash, but you could just decorate the outside of the last portion right here. Here's your cover. That's the only weird fold back that you have to do. Everything else follows the natural folds of what you just did. So again, you could glue along the spine and decorate the outside as you want, but I'm going to do just a little bit more because otherwise the video would literally be like 5 minutes long. So if you are big into crafting already, you might have some scrapbooking paper scraps that you want to grab right now, or find an old magazine that you really like. That's what I did, and we'll make a pretty little cover. And for those of you who haven't heard the term underconsumption core, you're probably not chronically online like some of us. It's this time period's rebrand of like when I started university in 2008, it was the beginning of the Great Recession, and the tagline was reduce, reuse, recycle. And visible mending in your clothes became super hot. It was actually really fun to learn how to do that. All these ancient techniques of like shasiko sewing and like cute patches on your clothes and that kind of thing came super big into fashion, adding embroidery to close holes on jean pockets and things like that, as well as doing crafts, playing games at home with friends, cooking from scratch and baking, like all of the things that have kind of seen a surge in the last couple of years happen any time, at least that I've been alive, when finances get a little tough, when things get really expensive, or when people kind of have a harder time looking for jobs. And so this idea of underconsumption core is that, but it's also wrapped up in the name of just like consuming less, because I am a girly who likes to have all of the special things, and I have allowed myself, after having I went through some very low financial times for my formative years and my early adult years, and it's taken me a long time to be okay with like spending money on myself that I would have previously considered frivolous. And although I've really enjoyed kind of relaxing into allowing myself to, kind of be softer and enjoying things, I am needing personally to get back on budget. And I was kind of forced to do that really, really bad 2 years ago. Like with the summer that inflation went crazy, I also, I had some issues with my day job, and it was rough. It was really rough. I just had a lot of stuff going on personally with my income, and also things were getting really expensive. And then I was able to get a much better job last year, and so I kind of let my spending get a little out of control for me personally, which is to say, I'm usually a very frugal person. I don't own a dryer, like a clothes dryer. I'm an American who I hang my clothes outside on a clothesline or inside on a drying rack. That's how frugal I am. And I just have a lot of those practices integrated into my life to where the only debt I have is my mortgage. And so, but when you go through lean times, it's just it's very seasonal, right? Finances are just like our ancestors would focus on making calories and collecting calories to stay alive. We collect finances and money to stay alive. And so it's very stressful because it's tied to our survival, just like our ancestors worked very hard to find food. And so money can get to you a lot more than you think it does. I read a book called Financial Feminist. I read several finance books the last couple of months, and if you want reviews on any of them, I can definitely do art journal pages or talk about them. But I read that one, Psychology of Money, and a couple of other ones, and the main takeaways, because there are all these own people's perspectives. They range in ages from their early 20s to early 80s, so I try to read books with very, very different perspectives, especially when it comes to things like finance. And so I didn't agree with everything, and I've experienced very differently than some of the, tips and everything that she gave. But the one of the really good things that I liked was the first few chapters. She has you process your ideas and your emotions around finances, and you don't realize how much you have to process when you start that, especially if you go through, if you finally get to a point where you're making good money, and then you can't let yourself spend and you feel guilty constantly, or if you go on binge spending and you don't understand why and you feel guilty about that afterward. And there's all these things to unpack your emotions around money. And one of the ways that she has you do that at first is keep a finance diary. Anytime you spend money on something, of course, you write down like the date, what it is, how much the money was, which I've done before, but then the last column is how it makes you feel. That was a doozy. It was really eye-opening, because why does spending $25 on coffee and pastries one Saturday a month with my kids make me very happy and I feel no guilt at all, and then buying $25 in gasoline makes me feel like I want to chew my arm off? It's a very viscerally different feeling, and it was really cool to see how all of that happened inside my brain and my body. But at the same time, it was like, oh, I need to address these things and think about why I feel this way about these, and it just leads you down this kind of rabbit hole of processing. Anyway, so I haven't done that in a while, and I feel like I've been feeling like I've needed to, because I have a goal in mind, and for my future. I'm very thankful for where I am in my life, in my finances, at just where I am. I'm so grateful to be where I am in so many ways. But I am an ambitious person. I always have been. I love having a goal to strive for. I love reaching, you know. I'm a very hungry person in that way. And so I like having a view of where I want to go in the future. And I am a person who struggles with living in the future rather than the present, which is something I've been working on a lot since the pandemic, really, and a little too much, probably, because obviously I'm needing to do a financial reset. But I have this, you know, future cottage and land, and I have this future idea of where I want to be in the next 5 or so years. And so I wanted the outside of this little booklet to reflect that, and to remind myself of why I work so hard and where I want to go, and why I need to be conscious of my spending, and physically having to write this down every time I go to pull out my debit card or pull out my cash is going to help temper me. And if I can gamify something, I respond to it better, and it's easier for me to follow through. And so obviously this is a video of just a very simple way to freely make yourself a journal to use for whatever you want it to be. It can be for quotes, it can be for transient emotions that you're trying to understand, it can be a tiny little dream journal, it can be anything you want. But since this is, you know, an underconsumption core idea, I wanted this to be a financial journal for me. And you know, while we're talking about finances, I also wanted to address something that I've seen in my Patreon, my Ephemera Club, which I talk about in every video because that is what you do when you make videos. I'm always appreciative of any and all support you guys give me. I'm not I don't do this full time yet, and so I just really like having a group of us who are super nerds about art journaling and junk journaling, and it's fun to be able to send out the same type of things to play around with in our journals, and then either share on Discord, which I know I'm terrible about interacting with, but I do read because it's more for everybody else than for me. Y'all hear my thoughts all the time on my videos, so it's a place for y'all to get together and hang out. And it's been a really fun 2 years of doing that. That's how old my channel and the Patreon is, and I had a lot of people join last month, I think from the Southern Gothic video, because a lot of people liked what I had made for that parcel, and then a lot of people left this past month. And thus far in my 2-year journey, I have only ever had people in the exit surveys say that they left for financial reasons, or they had just like accumulated too much and they didn't have the space anymore for the physical media, and then they kind of dropped down to the digital media so that they could still interact and support and all of that, which never hurts my feelings. It's always appreciated. And but I did have my first like strong criticisms, couple paragraphs from one person in particular about how they felt, and I try not to take those kinds of things personally, but I just would encourage you that if you are thinking about joining, please go search for my Ephemera Club shorts to see what I've made in the past, because I always make things that have, you know, they're centralized around a theme, and sometimes I make a lot of them, sometimes I print a lot of them, sometimes I find a lot of just little fabrics and ribbons and things that match the theme, and it changes every month, not only the theme, but the items that are in the envelope, and I'm limited to the envelope itself. I can't make them too thick. I've had several months where people's envelopes have been sent back, and that's never fun because then it takes twice as long to get to you and twice the postage and everything. So I've had to be real careful about making sure that they fit through the sorter at the mail place. Anyway, all this to say, I just encourage you to go look through those so that you kind of know what to expect, because it kind of seemed like these people joined without understanding what it was. It's a support platform and not a shop. My shop, I might actually be closing within the next month or two. I'm just doing a lot of behind the scenes reevaluation of the business side of my channel, and I'm realizing it's not the time for some things. I'm kind of stretching myself too thin, risking burnout, and I'm concerned about quality, and the platform I'm using for my shop has made some changes I really don't like. So I'll update more about that in the next few weeks. But moving back to the video itself, these two pens are like, I call them over-the-counter pens. They're not the fancy pens that you order, or, you know, they're a couple dollars at most big box stores or office supply stores, and they're my favorite. I am so picky about my pens because I have arthritic fingers, delicate fingers, so I don't like having to push very hard. I also like when they're very inky and write smoothly so that you write with flourish. I always write in cursive, and writing with pencils, writing with regular ballpoint pens, not only do I have to press too hard, it takes a lot longer and it doesn't look right I never write in print. And these are perfect if you write in cursive all the time, as well as wanting it to look like you're writing with a fountain pen, a dip pen, a quill pen, anything like that. I love these pens. Now, if you make it to the end of the video, please leave me a little ballpoint emoji pin, and tell me what your favorite, like, over-the-counter, I'm gonna say over-the-counter pen is, or pen brand or whatever. I'm very curious. And also a pen, if you want to see more of like an art page, or something that is more like on the page rather than creating something new, like a journal or a tag or something. And if you do want to see in this Underconsumption core series, if you want to see something that is creating a whole thing, like a journal of a trash box, or, you know, a pretty tag, or anything like that, or how to make fancy pens, how to make a feather pen without an inkwell, anything like that, leave that preference below so that I know what direction y'all would like to see next week, because direction is good. So I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you next week. Have a wonderful week, friends. Bye.